Let's talk about how to pick a profitable course topic. Now, this is a deeper dive that piggybacks off of one of my previous videos called How to Create a Course That Sells from an 8-figure course creator. And if we haven't met before, real quick, I'm Sarah Turner. I have created an 8-figure business with online courses, and I have worked in the digital marketing space for over 11 years, helping other people create digital products and funnels. In total, I've generated over $61 million in sales. So I know a thing or two about what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to picking a profitable course topic idea. And real quick, if online courses interest you and you want to dig deep so that you can build something that is sustainable and scalable to create more freedom in your life, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be going deep on all these topics. That way you'll know when the next video is out. So let's dig right on in. First things first, your course should solve a problem. And I think that pretty much goes without saying, but I wanted to make sure we're super clear on that. So whatever it is you're going to create a program around, you want to make sure that it's solving a real problem that people have. And you want to be, when you're creating your marketing materials and creating the program itself, really focused on the transformation, because what people actually are purchasing is the hope for a transformation. In fact, what I want you to do by the end of this video is to be able to create a transformation statement. So a transformation statement looks kind of like this. We help target audience achieve desired outcome by unique approach or solution so they can benefit or transformation without objection. Let me give you an example of that. We help aspiring chefs master the art of cooking through our online culinary courses so that they can create restaurant quality meals at home without breaking the bank. So I'm going to go ahead and put that transformation statement back up on the screen. You can go ahead and press pause, make sure you write it down somewhere, and you want to be able to complete this before you kind of move forward in any sort of creating your program or creating any marketing materials related to your program. Now, something I want to call out right away is don't assume that you need to have an ROI or return on investment, meaning you don't need to create a program that teaches people how to make money in order to have a lucrative program. That is a common misconception that people have. There are tons of successful programs out there that have absolutely nothing to do with making money. We are emotional creatures, and so enriching our lives or alleviating a heartache can be extremely valuable to us. An emotional ROI is powerful. Now, there are bigger and smaller emotional transformations. For example, I would consider a big emotional transformation would be something like helping someone navigate divorce or teaching somebody how to shift careers confidently. Those are bigger transformations, right? And if your program helps people achieve overcoming or navigating more complex, more painful, more inspiring life changes, then usually you can charge more for that transformation. Now, there are smaller transformations, but those are not less important in my opinion. Those could be things like helping people become more confident in picking out clothes on a day-to-day, or it could be helping somebody know how to do DIY projects around the house so that they don't have to call a handyman or a plumber, or so they just feel more confident. Whatever it is, you just want to get really clear on the transformation because you need to have the transformation in order to get clear on your ideal customer avatar or your ICA. Your ideal customer avatar is somebody that would be a perfect student, somebody that your program would help in the best possible way. And when you start to think about your ideal customer avatar, it's really important that you get very specific about who they are, not just in their demographics. Now there might be a variety, but also in our value graphics. What do they value? What is important to them? Because the clearer picture that you can paint for yourself of who your ICA is, the better you will be able to build a profitable course, as well as create marketing materials that are going to speak directly to them and have them thinking, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's just for me. Take my money. One important question that you need to ask yourself when you're considering your ICA is, are your potential students going to be able to afford your program or a program? Because you cannot sell a program to a group of people who simply cannot afford it. But that doesn't mean you aren't going to be able to help them. What I always recommend to students is that they focus on getting solid first in their self, in their business, in their program, in the course that they're creating. And then they will be able to free up time, energy, and space, maybe by hiring a VA, maybe by not having to work as hard because you've created a digital product that scales, but essentially moving along the spectrum from surviving to thriving. This allows you the space and energy and resources to be able to put things out for people who can't afford to work with you. You'll also be able to create things like scholarships if you want to. There are a lot of ways to give back to a group of people. But initially, you have to choose a transformation that has an ICA or an audience that can actually afford a program. And that is especially important for my audience because we tend to be a bunch of bleeding hearts who want to help as many people as possible. And that is a really good thing. Now, a shortcut for this process is think about somebody in real life that your program idea could potentially help. And when you have some people in real life that you think your program will help, what you can do is interview them. Ask them things like, what's the number one thing you hope to receive from a program that would help you solve X problem? Or have you tried to solve this problem in the past? What was your favorite and least favorite things about what you tried? Interview insights are gold. Now, you might not actually want to start with an interview. There's a few other things that you can do to kind of research before you get to that process. I think interviewing people in real life to kind of start to flesh out your program a bit better is a good step once you know it's actually profitable. However, I wanted to be sure to include that as we were thinking about your ICA because you do want to start out with a basis for who your ICA might be to kind of give yourself some direction as you go. But let's take a few steps back and let me give you some ideas to do some concrete market research so that you have a pretty good idea that you are creating a program that is truly profitable. The first thing I want you to do is to look around online and see if your idea already exists in some form. And if it already exists, that's a good thing. Some people get discouraged by this, but it's not discouraging at all. What it means is that it is likely a profitable idea. Sometimes the idea exists, but maybe not with the audience you're considering. Let me give you some examples. Mindfulness for entrepreneurs. Maybe there are other mindfulness programs, but not one that is particularly serving entrepreneurs. Or maybe you're thinking about doing mindfulness for a different group of people, but you have found some mindfulness courses for entrepreneurs. See, it's kind of an indication that this might work. Another one might be time management for parents. Again, there's probably lots of time management courses out there, but maybe there aren't so many about parents, and that's the audience you want to serve. Another one might be storytelling for health coaches. There are a lot of storytelling programs out there, but are there ones for health coaches? Maybe there are, maybe there aren't. The real thing I'm trying to get you to do here is to think about the different niches that your program might exist in outside of who it is you're thinking about serving, because that is an indicator that it exists and that it is likely to be a profitable idea. Maybe you want to do something about financial literacy for artists. So you look around online and you see there are lots of financial literacy courses, which is a great sign that it might be profitable, but you are going to take it a different direction and have it address people who maybe aren't numbers people, more creative types. And remember, when you're looking for groups, it might not be a group that is directly solving the problem that your program solves. It'll probably be something that's adjacent. So in the examples that I gave before, like mindfulness for entrepreneurs, you might just find a group of entrepreneurs or a group of parents or a group of health coaches or a group of artists. Maybe their group is about something that is adjacent or even just about hanging out together as a group. And you can then go in and kind of gather research and information to really help those people and to make sure that you're creating a beta program that serves their needs. The other thing I want to call your attention to is to check what I call the gender divide. There is a big divide in the online education space between men and women. Men primarily sell to men and women primarily sell to women. So when you are doing your market research, make sure you check the opposite gender. Make sure that you're not just looking at other women creators, because oftentimes what you'll find is that the program you're considering exists, but maybe it's primarily speaking to men. And you know that if you add a feminine touch, for example, you will speak to a different audience. Or a non-binary touch, whatever it may be. But the key point here is I just want to call attention to the fact that you want to make sure you aren't just looking at people who speak to you. You want to look at different programs that are speaking to a variety of people. Now, the next thing I want you to do is some basic keyword research to see if people are searching for the solution to the problem that your program solves. A few helpful tools for keyword research include Answer the Public and Ubersuggest, and then just good old-fashioned Google Analytics. Now, really what you're looking for here is just to see the volume of searches, because the greater number of searches, generally the better when it comes to looking to see if you're solving a problem that there's a high demand for. Now, once you have a decent idea that this might be a profitable topic, I want you to get your concept out in the real world as quickly as possible, because quite frankly, this is going to be the fastest way for you to figure out if this is a good idea, and you should start devoting a lot more time, energy, money, resources to it. I am all about taking imperfect action, because market research is often what I like to call a form of fancy procrastination, meaning you feel like you're doing something, you feel like you're taking steps towards your goal, but you're actually just fancy procrastinating by putting off what really needs to be done, and that is putting something into the world, into the hands of real people and gathering feedback from that. So what that means is what I want you to create is what's called a minimal viable product, or an MVP, meaning it's the thing that you can get into the real world as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. And what I mean by that is you're going to create something that you're going to actually have people going through. So maybe it's a mini course or a program or a beta test, what I'm going to talk about in just a second. But you're going to create something that will get people the results that they're looking for, but without all the bells and whistles. So you're going to maybe take the key concepts that people need to know in order to achieve their transformation. And if you want to get more nuanced later on, you obviously can. So I actually prefer a beta test for this. What is a beta test? A beta test is basically a trial run where you kind of test your concept and run a preliminary program to a small group of people before you actually build it out and release it to the general public. Beta tests are amazing because they help you with a lot of different things, including what type of content to include. It will often help you see blind spots. For example, when I ran a beta test for one of my programs, I quickly realized there was a lot of things that I already assumed that people kind of knew that I needed to be more explicit in explaining. So you're going to be able to see where do people need help and where do you actually need to dig deeper. It's also going to help you refine your marketing messaging because you're going to be talking to real people and hearing their feedback on it, as well as hearing their pain points. This also goes back to interviewing people in real life who would be perfect students for your program, because when you interview them and ask them questions, you want to be paying special attention to the word choice they're using to describe what they're struggling with and what they're hopeful for, because you will incorporate that not only into your program, but also into the marketing messaging. So what makes good beta testers? First and foremost, you want to make sure that they are motivated. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they are starting a beta test is they try to convince people to be in their program. That is not what you want. You want people who are highly motivated to be in your program. So how do you find those people? Well, first, you want to make sure that they really have the problem that your program sells. You can often find those people in Facebook groups that are adjacent to your problem. For example, if you have a elimination diet program where you're going to help people who have a lot of bloating and gastrointestinal issues, then you want to find a group online that is looking to kind of solve that problem. You can enter into those groups, usually become helpful, and oftentimes you can actually post about your beta test directly in that. You do have to make sure though that it's in compliance with whatever the group rules are. But really you just need to find people online or in real life, quite frankly, that really need the transformation that you have. The second component is that they really should pay for the beta test. When people pay for something, there is skin in the game. They are so much more likely to take it more seriously and to value your time and to show up. Now, you can do a free beta test. If it's hard to get people into your beta test as a paid version, then go ahead and run it free. But again, you want to make sure that they are highly motivated. Please do not ask your sister or your best friend to join. those people are not going to probably give you the feedback that you need and in a really honest and effective way. So carefully choose your beta testers, because these guys are going to be your first testimonials. They're going to be the first people to go through the program, to experience that transformation, and to shout from the rooftops how amazing what you're creating is going to be. What I like to encourage people to do is post about their beta test. Say, here's what's coming, here's the transformation I'm going to provide, and here's a basic outline. Here's my idea, outline your program. Maybe it's 5 different topics, probably no more than 7. And you're going to talk about how you're going to walk people through and then come up with the format. Now, what's the format here? Are you going to have a few lessons online, or are you going to create the lessons as you go? I would probably encourage you to create the lessons as you go after you interact with your beta testers, but you also want to include how are you going to show up and have them go through of each of those topics. I would suggest maybe having a group call, like a Zoom call, where you kind of do a little bit of teaching and then you open it up for questions so that you can get feedback on the places that maybe missed something or they need some extra information or clarity. And then you're going to take that, and that's going to be all the information you need to kind of create that first lesson. You can have one-on-ones, but I really want to emphasize group coaching because you will not have to repeat yourself as often, which is a time and energy saver for you, but also people will learn from each other. Somebody might have a question that the other person didn't think to ask, but it was a great question and they benefited from hearing it. Not to mention you build camaraderie and community. So if you have a program where you can have some group coaching in there to kind of work through your beta test, I highly recommend that. You also want to make sure that you limit the duration of your program. I have tested the lengths of many different programs, and let me tell you, 90 days is my favorite time frame. 90 days is enough time to get substantial work done, but it's not so long that people burn out and run out of motivation and energy. 90 days to me is the sweet spot. So I'm going to recommend 90 days unless you have a much smaller transformation and you can get it done in a shorter time frame. The other reason you want to limit the duration of your program is that you want to make sure that people are motivated to get it done and that they are also respectful of their time. You always want to set the expectation that your beta test will end. Or you can kind of run into a runaway situation where you're just constantly coaching or mentoring people for free. And while that would be lovely if we didn't have bills to pay, you need to protect your time and energy. You also want to make sure that you're limiting your time inputs. One of the best ways to eat away at your time is to offer a ton of one-on-ones. See where you can kind of bundle people together into groups. And if you're repeating yourself and can make it a quick video lesson, go ahead and do that. Or maybe a workbook. Just think about all along the way how you can conserve your energy. And then, of course, you want to be building materials as you go and while it's fresh. So what I like to encourage people to do is while they're going through the beta test with their people, is they're also taking the time to actually build out and outline their program. You might not actually record it in that moment, but you don't want to wait too long to record whatever lesson it is that you're creating, because you want everything that you've just experienced with your beta testers to be fresh in your mind. So if you've just gone through one entire topic, you've moved on, you're now in a different topic, go ahead and write a really concrete and clear outline of what that lesson will look like, even potentially record it so that you have something that is fresh. And of course, every good beta test incorporates feedback. Be asking for and incorporating feedback all along the way. However, I do want to add a caveat to that. You want to make sure that you take their advice with a huge grain of salt. When people ask for something within my programs, I always ask myself, what is the underlying need here? Because I, over the last 6+ years, have had an incredible amount of requests from students, some of which were brilliant, some of which were not so brilliant. Let me give you an example of that. I had a student request, one student over the course of like 6,000, that I put transcripts to every single live coaching call. And we did that one time before, earlier on, but what we realized is that nobody was using them because we can see on the back end what materials are being used. Nobody wanted to go read a transcript because it's a little clunky. And because our coaching calls are 2 hours long, it was an insane amount of volume. What we realized is that that person really wanted a nice summary of the call and all the key points as well as timestamps so they could find what they needed. And we started incorporating that instead. It was a lot less work. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to just always deliver on what every single little request is. You really want to think about what is the underlying thing here. Actually, I'll give you another story. I had a student reach out to me because she had a student who was concerned about getting too vulnerable on the group coaching calls. They had a more sensitive subject, which is understandable. But basically, she wanted to eliminate posting replays, which is really unfortunate because anyone who can't show their live then cannot actually see the material, which was part of the promise. So it put the course creator in a little bit of a predicament. But there was really a simple solution here. That person should only share what they want to share on those calls. They shouldn't overshare. And so the course creator took some time to make sure that they felt heard and understood, but explained that they couldn't really change the format of the entire course to accommodate this, but instead encouraged them to really only share what they felt comfortable sharing. But the other thing is the course creator reminded the student was that they were not going to be posting this publicly online. This was only going to live in the program where other people were coming in who were experiencing the same hardships as them. And not to mention the real value in a live coaching call is something that is fresh and new and with the community that you are working through it with, like the cohort that you're going through the program with. I'm willing to bet it is highly, highly unlikely, because this particular course creator does cohorts, that anyone is going to go back and watch all of the previous live coaching call replays. It's so unlikely, especially as more and more time goes on. The student felt really heard, really seen, and they were reassured, and they were able to kind of move forward in a way that worked for both of them. Now, I want to leave you with a few thoughts that encapsulate an incredible amount of experience, over a decade's worth of experience in this particular topic. And that is, I really want to make sure that you are not always bending to the requests of your students, of your beta testers, of the people in real life, friends, family, things like that. Because creating an online course takes testing and refinement. And it is so important that you are with and surrounding yourself with a community and mentors that know what they're talking about, or very quickly you will burn yourself out because you will give away too much of your time and you will not charge enough, probably. So the question I always like to remind people to have in the back of their mind when they are filtering the advice that they are receiving from all of the different people in our lives is asking yourself the question, have they been where I'm trying to go? Because if they have not been where you're trying to go, i.e. they are not a course creator, then you need to keep that in mind when you are considering whether or not to incorporate their advice into your life. Because oftentimes people will give well-meaning advice, but it's usually based in fear, because they're concerned for you, because they want to protect you or keep you safe, or they'll just give advice that they frankly have no idea what they're talking about. I think we all know people who tend to do that. And I don't think they have any ill intent usually, but it's uninformed advice if they have not created an online course themselves before. Not to mention, by and large, people do not understand the amount of work and energy that goes into creating and maintaining an online course. There's a pervasive attitude that it is completely passive income, which it can be if it's just a digital product that you never update and there's no community and there's no group coaching. But if you're doing it the way I recommend doing it and the way that I love doing it, there's nothing passive about it. It still takes work. Is it scalable? Is it going to detach your time from money? Absolutely. But it is still hard work. So make sure you're surrounding yourself by people who are going through this process. And again, because it requires refinement, it requires tweaking and testing things. And make sure you're surrounding yourself with worthy mentors. With that in mind, I'd love to tell you about my program, Let's Build Your Online Business. I actually put together a free masterclass that kind of walks you through the overview of the process of building and scaling a successful online course. And I'm going to go ahead and link that below. And I'm going to keep putting out these in-depth videos about each part of this process. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get notified when the next one's available.